Good evening. My name is Eugene Peterson, and I'm the chair of the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission. And I'd like to say a few things about the commission before we commence the meeting. The commission, previous to, I believe it was 2020, was appointed at the behest of the county executive. It wasn't in the charter. It wasn't mandated that we have a human Relations Commission. That changed with legislation, I believe, in 2020 or 2021, where the commission was, the voters were asked to take a vote on whether they wanted this in the county charter. It was put in the charter. And so we no longer exist at the behest of the county executive, although we work through the county executive, and the county executive has appointments on the commission, including the chair, and there are other appointments from the councilmanic districts, and we have a student member that's appointed by Craft of the Anne Arundel County Public School System. Recently, the legislation, and let me go back and say that the first legislation that gave us statutory responsibility was legislation to address housing discrimination. And we were given the ability to investigate alleged claims of housing discrimination, to refer them to any other agencies where it was appropriate. But if we couldn't reach some kind of negotiated settlement between the parties involved, we have the power to, through subpoena, to get subpoenaed information. We can hold a hearing, and we can make statutory recommendations, including any fines that might be assessed for violating certain kinds of the housing discrimination statutes in Anne Arundel County. Last session, or it was either last session or 2 sessions ago, we were given additional responsibility, and we're working with the Office of Law to make sure that, as on our web page on the county website, where you can see where you can use the website to file an alleged complaint in housing discrimination, and you can have it filed in particularly a number of different languages. We are working with the Office of Law to develop similar complaint forms for the additional responsibility that we've given. And we were given additional responsibility for public facility discrimination. That would be restaurants, bars, arenas, and we have the statutory responsibility now to consider complaints about alleged discrimination in these kinds of facilities. And finally, we were given employment discrimination responsibility, so that citizens who feel that they were unjustly discriminated against in their employment pursuits can file a discrimination complaint with us. That is all county residents, but county employees who are still governed by the state, by the county, by the county statutes regarding employment discrimination that the Office of Law is responsible for maintaining and implementing. In addition to all of this, we really see ourselves as trying to fight against any kind of allegation of discrimination, whether it be allegations of race, sex, gender, And we are committed to strive as the county executive and the county council have said in public form on the county website to make our Anne Arundel County the best place for all. So that's a brief description of what it is that we do. And having said that, I will ask our secretary, Secretary Dedoni, to take the roll.
Thank you. For the record, and we do refer to the audio record as well, may I ask you to answer in the affirmative if you are present? From District 1, Commissioner Renee Newman.
Present.
Thank you very much. From District 2, Commissioner Lakeisha Hatcher.
Present.
Thank you. From District 3, Commissioner Faye Gaskin.
Present.
Thank you. From District 4, Commissioner Eugene Peterson.
Present.
From District 5, please forgive me, Commissioner Gaida Hayeva.
Correct. Present.
Thank you. From District 6, Commissioner David Michaels.
Present.
Thank you. I believe District 7 is vacant at the moment. For one of the county executive appointees, Commissioner Mary Dedoni, present. I believe that County Executive Appointee Jaden Ferris is not with us this evening.
That's correct.
And I believe that County Executive Appointee Mark Apter is not with us this evening.
That's correct.
And I believe that the fourth County Executive Appointee is at vacant position at this time.
That's correct.
Krask Appointee Rolian Sanye, I apologize. Are you with us this evening? Okay, and I believe a ACDS appointee, Commissioner Lisa Sorrow. I believe you're here.
I am present, yes.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the roll call. I believe that we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 commissioners present, which exceeds the minimum quorum of 6 out of 11 active positions.
Okay.
I also want to acknowledge our visitors as I record them. Not visitors, you are part of us, of course. Director Asha Smith is with us.
Thank you.
Research and data analyst Zayu Gu is with us. Chanel Clemens, Executive Assistant Chanel Clemens is with us. And I recognize also that we have Captain Elizabeth Smith from the Anne Arundel County Police Department. Have I failed to recognize any of our visitors? Assuming not, that should conclude the roll call.
Thank you, Commissioner and Secretary Dedoni. Now, I'd like to move to, and I think we had them up on the screen, and some of you probably have them. Commissioner Dedoni sent them out prior to the meeting. The October Human Relations Committee meeting minutes. So we'll give you some time to review them.
Executive Assistant Clemens, I am not offended if you do correct the typographical errors at this point. It's for a joint meeting. Thank you. 2025 should have a comma after it. And a comma is an, A-N. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate those corrections.
Okay, any other corrections? I guess I'll open it up to the other commissioners, and then I think I have one. Okay, hearing none. Secretary Dadoni, I believe that Commissioner Apter joined the meeting at one point. He wasn't there for the roll call because I believe and I'm going to ask Commissioner Hatcher to help me. Didn't we have a discussion about drafting a letter which has been drafted?
That is
going to go
correct.
to the Annapolis
Newly
newly
elected
elected mayor-elect.
Yes.
Yeah, we
yes.
did have that, and Commissioner
And
Apter
Commissioner
was part of
Apter is
that
the person
discussion, so he
who-
was at the meeting.
And I concur because he received a co-assignment with you, and I heard that on the video.
Right. So we should show him as president too. Okay. Any further changes, suggestions? Hearing none, I'll take a vote now. All in favor of accepting the minutes with the changes, the minor changes as discussed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes have been adopted for the October 30 meeting, the October meeting, unanimously. Now I'd like to move to, and I've moved the agenda around a little bit. We usually have the director's report after a number of presentations, but because I wanted to allow for time for the presenters to get on and get off, I moved that up. And before I asked Director Smith to give us her report, I would want to bring everybody's attention to the email we got from Commissioner Farris, and it addressed the testing legislation, fair housing testing legislation that we had last year. It looks like a bill will come out of the House, and we had a bill that came from the Senate. Senator Sidnor and Delegate Bartlett are involved in this. And the one interesting note was Commissioner Farris looked into this further, and there is no state in America that has a carve out for fair housing testing. So I say that to say that we'll see how this goes, but it does pose maybe another little hurdle to get this legislation adopted, which would allow us to conduct fair housing testing and collect meaningful data. So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. It wasn't on the agenda, but we might want to look at that, especially as we move towards our January in-person meeting and discuss that further. Okay, having said all that, I'll turn the meeting over to Director Smith.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you. Obviously the holidays are coming, so I'll start off by saying I hope that everyone has a very healthy and safe Thanksgiving when it comes. I don't have much to report, but we do have Ziyu Gu with us. Ziyu works with Dr. Nikki in our office on our hate crime prevention program, and she keeps our statistics. So I'm going to ask Ziyu to just step in and give us an update with respect to the hate bias incident data for the month. Ziyu?
Thank you. Is there a way for me to share the screen? Because right now I couldn't.
You don't have the little green arrow on the bottom?
Give me a second, Ziyu.
Okay, Chanel will set that up for you. In the meantime, until you're sorted with that, I just wanted to remind everyone that The commission joined in on the Caucus of African American Leaders resolution a year ago, in which an apology for slavery was requested. As many of you know, the county executive has organized a day of acknowledgement for slavery and its legacy that will be held this Saturday. It's going to be held at Maryland Hall. Doors open at 9:30 a.m. Information about the event is available at aacounty.org/ourhistory. It promises to be a very engaging and informative event. We're starting the day with our partner, Chris Haley from the Maryland Archives, who will be taking us through a historical narrative of the history of slavery in Maryland and Anne Arundel County. There will be reflections from various community members on parts of that narrative. When that is concluded, the county executive, of course, is going to give the apology, and there will be a signing of a proclamation, et cetera, et cetera. That'll be the morning part of the program. There's lunch offered for those who've registered for it. And then after that, we will have two panels. The first is a panel on opportunities that currently exist in the county that have the potential to reduce disparities and reduce the wealth gap in our county. And so there'll be representatives. Dr. Bedell will be there speaking. Amy Gowan from Economic Development will be speaking. Arundel Community Development Services will be represented. Workforce Development will be represented. The Community College will be represented. And they will be speaking specifically about programs that have the ability to reduce disparities in the county, in health, in wealth, and in education. So we're very much looking forward to that. It's sort of a don't miss session. They're going to be talking about deadlines, eligibility criteria, the next cohort dates, all of those very practical and pragmatic things. And then immediately following that panel, there will be a conversation on reparations. We're pleased to announce that Dr. Andre Perry from the Brookings Institution will be the featured speaker for that part of for the program. And so we hope that you guys will join. Obviously, a representative from the commission will be invited to participate in the photographs that will be taken at the event. And now it looks like ZU's presentation is up. Oh, Mary, yes, please.
I do have a question about that. Thank you for the email earlier today, I believe, about which members of the commission could attend to represent the commission.
Sure.
That raises the question of, have you found people? And I believe it might be good for the commissioners to sit together. Could you advise us, please?
Sure. So I do think that it is a good idea for the commissioners to sit together if possible. I'm going to put you guys on hold for 1 second. I just realized there's some background noise that might be, can you guys hear that? Is it coming through? Oh, no. Okay, great. So I do think it's a good idea for you guys to sit together if you'd like. The seating is not reserved. It's generally open for people who are not actually participating in the program. But of course, we would encourage commissioners to sit as close to the front as possible. When you get to the welcome desk, just let our staff know that you are there from the commission, and they will help, they'll assist you with seating. I think that from this group, let me just take a quick look at I know, Mary, that you said that you would be going. I saw that Commissioner Hatcher just said that she can attend. I don't know if there was anybody else who had registered to attend. David, I see your hand is up.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, I would like to attend. I'm technically only can attend maybe the morning program.
That's
and
fine.
then not even stay for lunch. The question is, and I don't have to take up a lunch chair. I can sit along a wall. Do you know how the room is set or anything related to the space?
Sure. So actually, the registration was designed so that people could select the morning, lunch, and the afternoon,
Yeah.
and also the full day. So you could select the full day, or you could break it into parts. And the first part of the program, actually the entire day, is going to be in Maryland Hall in that main theater. At one point, we contemplated doing a session downstairs in the Bowen Theater, but because of the overwhelming response that we received to the event, we wanted to have more capacity. So everything will be held in the main theater, except for lunch, which will be in the Bowen Theater. So folks can go downstairs, sit, it's boxed lunches, you can sit with your lunch and then come back up. So there'll be ample opportunity if you need to leave after the first part of the program. People will be dismissed after that. And there are going to be, I should say, exhibits in the galleries. The Maryland Archives has exhibits. Banneker Douglas Tubman Museum has a wonderful drawing that they've also shared for the day. So that will be on display. The Maryland Emancipation Quilt is also going to be on display in the gallery. So there'll be a lot of opportunity. The archives had a traveling exhibit called Flee, which was a story of, quote, runaway slaves throughout the state. And so that will be actually brought to Maryland Hall and will be on display for the day. So there's an opportunity to kind of move around.
Thank you. I actually went on the site, unless I, again, don't know what I'm doing, wouldn't allow me to move any further.
I'm wondering if that means that it's sold out.
Right, which I figured the lunch would have been sold out, and maybe they, unless the whole event is sold out, and then.
Well, the commissioners who want to go, just let me know. If you're having difficulty registering, just let me know, and we will make appropriate accommodations for you.
Yeah, I'm basically morning for me. I 10 to noon possibly. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know. Mary, did I answer your question?
Yes, and thank you. I believe Commissioner Hatcher and Commissioner Haeva may also be having difficulty.
Okay. Let me know. You guys can send me an email offline if you would like to go, and just let me know what time you plan to be there, whether it's full day or for half the day. And I will make sure that our contacts are aware of that. And so now, finally, sorry, ZU, we're going to turn it over to you for the hate bias incident summary for the month. Thank you.
Good. Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to present on the data for the entire month of October, as well as the entire month of September and the first half of October. So here just an overview of the total incidents, hate bias incidents in 2025. In September, there's a total of 13 incidents. That's for the entire month. And then for October, the first half of October, there were 7 incidents. So the most common type, again, is still miscellaneous non-criminal incidents, which constitute 40% of all hate bias incidents. That would be 8. And that's followed by stress intimidation. So there are 4 of those incidents. In terms of the hate bias type, most of the incidents were motivated by race ethnicity. So that would be 72.7%. And in terms of offender characteristics, for all the incidents from September to October, 90% of offenders were identified as white, and 55% of hate bias incidents had one identifiable offender in the incident. In terms of victims, 50% of victims were identified as Black and 50% were identified as white. And 60% of hate bias incidents had 0 identifiable victim. So now when we talk about location, So for the first time in a couple months, Pasadena is the most common one rather than Glen Burnie. So that would be 5 incidents. I think it's 30% for Pasadena, followed by Glen Burnie, which is 25%. Sorry about the error there. In terms of incident place, 30% of hate bias incidents occurred at one's residence or home, which is consistent with the past couple months. So that's all I have for September to October data.
Yeah, I have a question, but I'm sorry I can't raise my hands because I couldn't find the icon there. First of all, thank you so much for the report. We appreciate a lot. Can you please remind again, when you conduct your research, where are you getting your resources, if you don't mind?
So these are 911 reports, and these data are provided by Anne Arundel County Police Department.
Great, thank you so much.
Commissioner Daydoni, you had a question?
Yes, you've been doing these reports, well, I recognize for 2 months now and probably longer. Do we have enough data to start seeing trends, consistencies? Can we draw any conclusions at this point?
I wouldn't say we can draw any conclusions, just because, as you can see, the numbers are quite low. But in terms of patterns, we were thinking about maybe try to do some sort of like geospatial analysis and mapping it, especially when we look at like the zip codes and the places. There are different type of places. So we're thinking potentially we can start mapping them, but we couldn't really do any like causal analysis, or we can't really do any regression just because the numbers are quite low.
Thank
And
you.
Captain Smith says that she's going to cover some of that in her presentation, which is part of why she's here today. So thank you.
And just in response to that as well, Commissioner Daydoni, ZU had done a 6-month report and will continue to do 6-month reports. So ZU will come every month to do month by month. The next 6-month report will be in February of 2026. But what has been consistent throughout all of the data presentation is that the bigger numbers are in Glen Burnie and Pasadena area. So that's something we can work with moving forward.
Thank you very much, and it's very good to see you.
Great job, ZU, and thank you, Dr. Nikki. That's all I have.
Okay. I guess has I think I gave him the 6:50 time frame. Has Patrick Galinas, the Anne Arundel County Safe and Orderly Schools, joined us?
He is on.
He's on.
Yes. Hi. Good evening. I just logged in a minute ago, actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Hi, Patrick. Good to see you.
How are you?
Fine. At this point in time, I guess we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys having me tonight. I'm going to, if I can share my screen here, let me just, hold on 1 second. I'll get my slide deck rolling here, and let me see if, all right. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
There it is.
Okay. I don't know if it's... All right. Give me just a second. With... All right. And we're sure we can all see that. Yes? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just triple check. You said no?
It keeps moving back and forth between your Zoom screen and your presentation.
Right.
So minimize your Zoom screen.
Okay. All right. I will go ahead and do that. That just means, I just won't see any of you. So you'll just have to, chime in as you need me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. All right. So then I'm just going to do this. At this point, my whole screen is my slide deck, if that works for everybody. And again, I will say for AACPS, we use a lot of Google Meets and Teams meetings. So if you need to get on me about the Zoom chat or anything, just let me know. But I really appreciate you guys having me tonight. Again, I'm Patrick Gelinas. I'm the director of Safe and Orderly Schools for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And I'm going to go through some of the information that I was asked about leading up to this meeting. And then, of course, I'm happy to answer any questions you have or let the conversation go in whichever direction you'd like it to be going. These are the topics. The first one is really a question I get a lot. And so I might just start off with that. And then the other topics are ones that I was asked to address this evening. So in terms of safe and orderly schools, so I've been in this role since July. Prior to working in this office, I was the principal of Broadneck High School. Prior to that, I was the principal of Annapolis High School. And then way back in the day, I started off my career as a high school social studies teacher in Anne Arundel County. And so since transitioning into this role over the summertime, as I'm speaking with either community groups or new assistant principals or teachers, the question I get a lot is, what is safe and orderly schools anyway? There's a lot of overlap in our work and a lot of collaboration between our office, school security, student services, the curriculum and instruction side of things. So I think it's a pretty natural question because I try to make sure that we exist kind of in the center of all of those offices so that we can help to influence them and be a partner with them as much as we can. So this slide was my effort to kind of summarize everything that we work on. So safe and orderly schools really is both proactive and reactive. Certainly there are things, right, to use a vague word, that come up in the school system that require some sort of reactive support, right? Whether that's significant behavioral issues or crises with facilities or weather-related issues or all the things. So there certainly are a need for some reactive procedures to be in place. A focal point for me since taking on this role has been to make sure that we are as proactive as possible, getting out into schools, coaching principals and assistant principals on how to best support students and families and their teachers with with when they're managing something like a behavioral issue, or they're looking for interventions that they can utilize prior to assigning some sort of consequence for something that comes up. So at the bottom of this slide, I listed some of the things we focus on. The Code of Student Conduct, which is essentially our, it's kind of like a rule book, right? It's a guideline for families, students, and staff around managing, just as it says, student conduct around schools. We provide guidance to schools on the procedural side of suspensions and extended suspensions and expulsions to make sure that everybody's work is aligned to COMAR, aligned to Board of Education regulations, AACPS policies, and really taking into consideration what supports those students' needs. We focus on community incidents that could impact schools. That includes collaborating with community organizations, to include Anne Arundel County Police and Annapolis City Police. And then we oversee the bullying, harassment, and intimidation documentation for the school system. So a question I got in advance, and I'll just say it one more time. I can't see the chat box right now, so I'm happy to have you interrupt or save questions until the end, whatever makes the most sense. So couple of questions I got in advance were about the number of hate and bias allegations we've received this school year. And I was actually talking with Maisha Gillens about this the other day, and she told me she speaks with you, this group, sometimes also. So I let her know I was jumping on here tonight with you guys, and so I told her I would let you guys know that she says hi and looks forward to joining you in an upcoming meeting. So, in terms of the number of incidents or allegations rather that we've received this school year, so far, and I pulled this number last week. So remember, we're about 2 weeks into the second marking period. We've had about 159 allegations of hate and bias related language and actions this school year. The follow-up question was, could you break that down by grade level, right? So out of that number, there's been about 37 at the elementary school level, about 97 at the middle school level, and about 25 at the high school level so far. And that's out of 84,000 total students. The follow-up questions were about programs and initiatives that we have in place to address these sorts of incidents, right? Because as I'm speaking with principals and everybody else, I often land on, all right, I hear all, this, what's going on with this incident. What can we do about it now, or what can we do proactively to try to prevent that moving forward? So I just want to share some of that information. This slide I almost left out, but I like to include it because it is just a reminder that AACPS does have both a board regulation there on the left and an AACPS policy on the right that provides guidance to schools and families and students around our policies around using biased language and bias motivated behaviors. We take that and we have a student handbook that's in place. If this was an in-person meeting, I probably would have brought you a student handbook. I don't know if you really wanted that or not, but I mean, I have it electronically if you'd like me to send it to you. But this is a document that our families receive. If you have kids in the school system, you've likely seen some version of this before. There are quite a few references to how schools address allegations and incidents of bias and hate within schools. This page on the right is just one example where that is referenced, that students have to acknowledge that they are familiar with that portion of our policies. At the beginning of the school year, my office helps each school at the elementary, middle, and high school level facilitate just what this slide says. This is actually, I'm just going to scroll through some of these slides. These are just slides that we put together for the beginning of the school year for students to review with their teachers, generally a homeroom or advisory teacher, so that they are familiar with the code of conduct, the rule book, so to speak. I think it's one thing to have these guidelines in place. It's another thing to make sure that, as you can see, as I scroll through these slides, these are very student-centered, right? So an opportunity to facilitate discussions with students at the beginning of the school year. A similar structure is in place at the beginning of each school year. We switch up the activities, the slides. You can see this one has a scavenger hunt involved, and then there's often some scenarios that we differentiate by grade level. So, the second and third graders that are working through this, the scenarios are, a little bit different than, of course, the 11th and 12th graders. We do have we actually have 4 intervention programs that my office oversees. I'm going to highlight the 2 most commonly accessed ones. So again, there are 4. One focuses on drugs, one focuses on tobacco. The other 2, this one focuses on biased language. And this is a pamphlet that we have for families. And I thought it wasn't the exact question, but I did pull the number of students that were referred to our biased language program last school year by grade level as well as this school year. So I thought I would share that because it's really in line with I think what you guys were interested in, I believe. So I'll start with last school year. So last school year for this particular program, there were 83 elementary school students that attended this program. There were 139 middle school students and 48 high school students. And it's probably a little tough to see on your screen. I had a hard time fitting it all on one slide, but these are classes in the evening. They're in a virtual format, as you know, many things have been the past few years. And if you could read the pamphlet, it gives you some guidance around what the program covers with students, why students are referred to the program by their schools, what the expectations are, how many times they meet. And it's really a useful conversation point for schools and families after an incident occurs. And ideally, this is a effort to make sure that students, when they, as we move past these incidents, that they are ready to make more responsible choices. This school year, again, from August until about last week, I think I pulled this on Friday of last week. We've had 21 elementary school students referred to this program so far this school year, 56 middle school students, and 17 high school students. We also have a second program that there is some overlap. Some families prefer this program and some schools do. We have a related program, which you see here, which is called the Responsible Actions Program. Oftentimes, responsible actions is a catch-all for a number of things. If a student is demonstrating some repetitive, less than positive choices while they're in school, this is often an intervention that schools will refer the student to. And again, similar structure. There are virtual classes. The focus, unlike the first one, is not specifically bias-motivated language and hate language and that sort of topic. Responsible actions, again, is much of a catch-all around making the most positive choices possible. Information is shared with parents. We have a program counselor and leads, and the classes are facilitated by AACPS teachers, and families have said that they have found it to be beneficial in many cases. For this particular program, last school year we had about 20 elementary school students attend this, about 106 middle school students, and 118 high school students. And then this year, again, from August until last week, so far we've had about 5 elementary school students, 20 middle school students, and 27 high school students attend so far this school year. And they are offered throughout the school year all the way up until the first week of June. And that those run each school year. And then again, there's 4 total intervention programs. But specific for the topics tonight, I felt like these 2 are probably the most relevant. They've been in place for years at this point in time. They certainly were. They were in place when I first became a principal and even an assistant principal. So they've been around for the better part of probably 15 or 20 years at this point in time. But we try to make sure that the curriculum and the classes and even the format, such as being virtual, evolves and reflects the needs of students and the behaviors that we are seeing in schools. And then, of course, ideally, these sorts of programs, the advisory homeroom lessons that we facilitate with schools, ideally they have some impact on the choices that students are making as they move from elementary to middle to high school. And I think if I press escape, all right, I'm going to come back over I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I can go back to any of those if you'd like me to. All right, all right, I see everybody. Yes. Okay. I know. Can I go back to any of the slides, or I'd be happy to speak to any of those? I'd be happy to get into whatever you guys would like to get into.
I think there was a question in the chat.
Right.
Okay. All right, I am pulling up the chat. Thank you. How long are the programs and our caregivers required to attend? So that's a good question. So back in the day when these were in person, the parent was required, strongly encouraged to attend. Now for the programs, we usually have the parent attend the first session, and then the kids attend the remaining sessions. So the first session is kind of a welcome on board, introductory type session, and then from there it's kid centered from there. But often after the program is or the sessions are completed, the school is notified, and then often that school will follow up. In a perfect world, will follow up with the parent and say, "Hey, I understand your child completed this program. You know, do you need continued support, or anything that we can reinforce here at the school?"
Commissioner Daydoni.
I'm going to have a series of questions. I'm going to start by asking you to please help me pronounce your last name again.
Sure. I probably breezed through that. Yeah. So my last name is Jelinus.
Because I was about to go, Galenus.
Yeah, Patrick is just fine. But yeah, so I mean it's Jelinus.
And I apologize for not having met you before. I also sometimes represent other organizations, and I haven't been as consistent at board meetings as I had been when my health was a little stronger. So here are a whole lot of questions. Um, you have we certainly asked about hate bias incidents. That's our terminology. It's also the terminology that is used by the police jurisdictions as they report up to the state for the state hate bias incident and crime reporting. But that's not the language that's used, as I recall, in AACPS. In AACPS, I'm familiar with the bias behavior and language policy and regulation, and also with the bullying and cyberbullying language and regulation. I further understand that if an SRO gets involved, and if the SRO determines that it is a hate bias incident, then it may fall into the hate bias reporting that goes up through, in this case, it would probably be Anne Arundel County Police Department reporting. But the internal reporting that is captured in the reports that are presented to the Board of Education, and I'll ask more about those reports in a moment, do not get reported up further, or do they get reported to the Maryland State Department of Education? So I've given you two questions. One is, how are we going from the terminology used in AACPS to what you've presented to us tonight as hate bias incidents? What's the mapping between the offenses against those two regulations, or others I may not know about, and what you're capturing is hate bias reporting to us today? And then where does your reporting go up to? And as I said, I'll have a follow-on question about the reporting within AACPS.
Okay, so yeah, so I'll take the first part of that around the bias motivated language category, so to speak. So I think that it's certainly more common in the school system to hear the term bias motivated language rather than utilizing the term hate, so to speak. And I really actually only incorporate that because that's the question I was asked to share out. But within the student code of conduct that I referred to, the category, so to speak, is called bias behavior and language. So that is the formal reference to it in the student code of conduct, which is what I was referring to earlier. Your second question was about information that's reported to the state, and I just wanted to clarify, if I could. You were asking what information related to bias behavior is reported to the state,
if any.
but then I heard an SRO component to it also. So I just wanted to make sure I answered correctly.
We're steeped in the hate bias incidents and hate crimes channel, which is through the police jurisdiction. So I refer to that because that's our context. And I wanted to point out that the overlap only happens if an SRO, who is a police officer, files a separate report, that there is no direct feed from AACPS up to across to the police departments or up to the state hate bias reporting. I'm pretty confident of that. But where I am not confident is, where does your data get reported up if it does get reported up?
So, to your point, our data does not get reported to Anne Arundel County Police. Certainly, the school system has a partnership with Anne Arundel County Police, which you were describing. But that's not data points that they ask for or we would share. Each jurisdiction within Maryland, to include AACPS, is required to share a variety of data points with MSDE on various topics. MSD shifts those requested reports periodically, but again, since I've taken on the role in July, I've had a chance to establish some points of contact with some of those folks at MSD to get a grasp on exactly what information they would like to have shared with them around various incidents. And oftentimes they are taking a look at things such as disproportionality amongst student groups within particular categories of infractions, these sorts of things. I think I kind of answered your question, but hopefully
You
that was
absolutely did.
okay.
I appreciate it. Now, let's. I said I also was going to ask a question about where the reports go. So I'm going to talk about back in the day, which was probably, well, it was in 2020, COVID. Prior to that, there would be monthly reports at board meetings. Dr. Gillens would report on bias behaviors, and Mrs. Jackson would report on safe and orderly.
Mm-hmm.
As tensions, and I'm going to tell the story as I understand it. I invite you to correct me or others if they know the story differently. As tensions grew in the community during COVID, and then as we returned to in person, it was those two reports, which were mandated to be made publicly, were deemed dangerously sensitive for the people presenting them. And they were no longer presented publicly. They were presented to the board, but not at public meeting, and they were presented and made available monthly reports online. At one time when I was looking for them, we couldn't find the monthly reports online. Are those reports still being produced monthly, quarterly, at any level within AACPS? And if so, where can they be found, if they can be found by the public?
Yeah, so in terms...
Sympathy. This is not an accusation.
What's that?
I'm saying this with sympathy for everything you've been through. I do not mean this as an accusation. I want to know if we can find the data.
Oh, sure. Yeah, thank you for clarifying. I didn't interpret it any kind of way. I just wanted to try to answer your question the best I could. So it would be. I'll just start by saying it'd be a bit difficult for me to speak to what Dr. Gillen shared at board meetings pre-COVID and those sorts of things. Certainly, I can huddle up with her the next chance I get to speak to that. And then in terms of the specifics of those reports, I'd have to ask her exactly what they were and see if there was some reason that what was shared at board meetings has shifted as you described. I don't know if that's a function of AACPS deciding what information to share out, or if that's a function of board members that were elected recently that wanted to structure. I can't really speak to the structure of board meetings, but certainly if there are particular reports that you're looking for, you could certainly let Dr. Gillens and I know, and we could take a look at if those are things that we are currently sharing, and if we are, great, and if we're not, perhaps her and I can speak to why that maybe has shifted. But it would be a little difficult for me to get too much into it without her here with me.
And I'm going to take that burden off you, although it may come back to you. And I'm going to put that burden on me. I have the opportunity to serve on the Equity Advisory Committee as co-chair, and Dr. Gillens and I can raise that for discussion at the next Equity Advisory Committee meeting. And then I can bring that information back to this body if this body is interested. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get roped into it, but it does mean that I will take that action item rather than placing it on you, if that's okay with you.
Sure, that sounds great. And just for everybody's reference, I spoke with Dr. Gillens this afternoon, and just to remind her I was jumping on here, and we kind of said, oh yeah, we'll check in with each other, just so she knows what information we talked about, and her and I work very closely together, as I said, as I do with a number of offices. So we'll huddle up tomorrow just so she knows that you'll be following up with her at that next meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Michaels.
Yes. Hi, Patrick. Thanks for your presentation. A couple quick questions for you. 84,000 students plus, I think, did you say a total of maybe a little over 100 reports? Is that what you sort of mentioned?
Yeah, for this school year so far, 159. So yeah, something like that. Yep.
Today was Trans Day of Awareness. Perfect kind of something that's in the news, but also school system, obviously maybe more a little bit along the lines of high school than middle school or elementary school. Kind of thing that it's a learning moment in the school, or it's not even discussed because the way the current political situation is, they shy away from things like that, or no, they make a point of, again, it falls within the guidelines of hate bias and all kinds of things. And yeah, where do you think things stood on that, or was not even on the radar today?
Well, it might be difficult maybe for me to say if it was on people's radars within these schools today, which I know is not maybe the most informative answer, but again, I think that might be something more that Dr. Gillens could probably speak more effectively to. So I mean, it was not necessarily brought to my attention as I was talking with principals today, but so I wish I had more information to share on that. But again, I like to, I know we all don't really know each other. I like to provide answers, and I hate to punt things off to other people, but really that would probably be more her office than my office.
Right.
Which I realize is not an informative answer.
It's fine. It's just a question.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, how is it like, I read the manual, I've signed it, whether you're a parent, whether you're a student, if something's reported, that's the documentation. If it's happening in the school, are the educators, the teachers, whatever, hall monitors, I don't even know what you have anymore. Do they, hey, what's going on? Why are we speaking in this manner? Students wearing, some student is deciding to wear something more, I'm not even going to say provocative, I'm going to say to how they feel as a person. That always can bring the ire or comments from other students. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, is this a specific, really cut and dry situation? Someone was bullied, therefore they take it, they report it, and then it sort of comes on your radar. Or no, we are a more advanced school system and we're trying to be on top of these kinds of things. I'm trying to get a read of where you're coming in at.
Yeah, so when incidents of bullying are reported, the school system has an electronic bullying form that can be filled out by, parents, by students, by staff members on behalf of families if they have a difficult time accessing it or whatever the case may be. That populates a electronic database that my office can oversee. So then we can either reach out to schools or we can monitor from afar what their investigation looks like, what supports they're providing to students to make sure that they are, I hate to say the word appropriately managing, but I mean, I think that's kind of what we're talking about, to make sure that they are appropriately managing situations as they come up. And then it sounds like maybe part of your question is also, the variety of staff members in schools. Like you said, there are a variety of staff members, from teachers to counselors to social workers to secretary. There's all sorts of different types of employees, so to speak. And so something else that my office partners with Dr. Gillen's office on are some of the professional development that is provided to each of those groups of people around how to interact with students and how to manage not just situations like we're talking about, but how to speak with students and interact with them when things that are less than favorable are taking place, to help manage that, whether it's, as you said, somebody's wearing something that is, whatever the right term is, inflammatory or bias or whatever the case may be, and how schools can manage that. Moving on to words that people say, things that people post on social media, the whole spectrum of things.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Any other
I
comments,
do have
questions?
a question. I have a question as well. I just don't have the emoji hand.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for your presentation as well. I did have a question in the chat I deleted, but I think it's going to piggyback off of what David was asking. More or less in regards to the different numbers of students at the different levels, whether it's elementary, middle, high school, that attended the intervention program. Was it something they needed to register for at the recommendation of a parent, or was there an incident or something that would cause them to have to attend like the bias language or the responsible action program?
So the vast majority of cases, it was a recommendation from their school.
Okay.
I'll just use the term incident, right? Something occurred, right? Incident might sound kind of like a strong word, but something occurs. Whether it's, we want to call it an incident or an interaction, or maybe it's a series of maybe what we might consider to be minor-ish, but progressively getting more disruptive type of actions. And so then the school would inform the student and the parent, hey, look, here's a intervention program that the school system has in place, sometimes in lieu of what you might consider a traditional consequence, right? Now, sometimes there might be a consequence and the intervention program, kind of depends on what the incident is. But I have seen principals tell families, like, look, instead of assigning this consequence for this time, I'm going to have you take these courses instead as an intervention, as opposed to a consequence, to try to be as progressive as possible when managing behavioral incidents that come up.
Okay, very good. So that is more like a proactive way of reinforcing positive behaviors rather than just a harsh punishment. My other question then, what about if I don't want to use the word victim, but what about the person that the incident was against, or they experienced? Are they often, is there a program or intervention for them to maybe speak as to like how they, how they felt, or what some of the things that they may be going through, or is this just strictly towards the person who's caused the incident? The intervention programs.
So these particular programs are generally for the person who caused the incident, so to speak. With that being said, I always advise schools to be mindful of there is that side of things, but the impact on, try not to, I guess a victim, or the other side, however we want to describe it.
The person offended, yes.
Yeah, right. The impact is real, and I don't think the social emotional side of things that schools have, school counselors and psychologists and social workers, and in many cases therapy services, and all these sorts of things that oftentimes school days get busy, just like you guys all likely get busy at your jobs, right? And so part of what my office does is remind schools of the best way to utilize those resources to, as you said, you might have one side of an incident, attending these classes, and maybe there's a consequence been assigned, and okay, but that other student is perhaps sitting in second period right now, really struggling to process this, or there's some lingering effects of the other kids in the cafeteria saying whatever they're saying, right? So certainly we try to work through that with students as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Sorrow.
Yes. First off, thank you all so much for your indulgence while I was driving home. I have made it, thankfully. Patrick, thanks so much for your presentation. So my question is related to the volume of the incidents that have been reported. Any reports are not good, obviously, but that number does seem low to me given the number of students that we have. So I'm wondering how confident you are that there is full reporting, not recording of reports, but that these incidents are in fact being reported. I assume they're recorded if they are reported. So is there any chance of underreporting? Is there any way of measuring the underreporting? I know it's a hard thing to quantify, but I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think that well, the first thing I could say is from me and my office, I strongly discourage the concept of underreporting, or I don't know, hiding data, or however we would like to classify, right? I often say to principals and schools, like, look, things are going to happen, and we're going to process them using the procedures and policies that we have in place. And at the end of the day, data points are what the data points are, and our job is to help students feel supported and to help them do well academically and become slightly better versions of themselves every day, and eventually move towards graduating, and if that along the way leads to some less than favorable data points here and there, then certainly that's understandable in my opinion. To your question though about my level of confidence in the numbers, the best way I think I can answer that is, I know we're talking about some specific categories of incidents, but our office also works with a office called Student Data that focuses on just what it says, data for all sorts of things, test scores, disciplinaries, that kind of stuff. And so we regularly audit other incidents that come up also to make sure that schools are classifying things as accurately as possible and correctly. There's a number of categories within the student handbook. To your point, even if it wasn't done intentionally, there could be a situation where an incident occurs and a school categorizes it as as one thing, and really it probably should actually be bias motivated language or something like that. So we do have that sort of process in place. To your point, there's over 100 schools. It's a lot of moving parts. So certainly there is um, some discretion on behalf of principals and assistant principals for how they are managing behavioral issues. But I also think that discretion is necessary, right? I mean, every kid is a unique situation. Every circumstance has some unique components to it. But we make sure that we're providing them ongoing guidance to avoid what you are talking about. I think that's the best way I can answer that, given
Right.
that there's so many schools and employees.
Yeah. I think I'm not necessarily focusing on whether the administrators, the adults, the professionals are recording reports or incidents. I'm more wondering about whether students who may be experiencing issues are sharing their experiences. I know in my field, we are seeing right now a big drop in reporting of incidents, particularly by community groups that are afraid right now of reporting of drawing any sort of attention to themselves. And I'm wondering if you're seeing that with students not reporting the incidents that are happening. I'm not necessarily talking about the administration or the teachers not reporting incidents when they happen, but more the students not coming forward if they're experiencing this.
Yeah, I think I'd have to speak to that maybe broadly and maybe anecdotally at the same time. That I think what you're describing comes up from school year to school year, not just with incidents of bias motivated language, but there are students and families in all communities. I think it's probably safe to say that are very willing to come forward, so to speak, and speak up and utilize the structures that are in place within the school to problem solve things as they come up. There are other families and students that's not what they want. They are either uncomfortable or feel like their voice might not, I don't know what the rationale is. So that certainly is something that again, I can speak to my previous role as the principal of both of those high schools, that was an ongoing conversation with families to say, look, like we 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 are really here to we have your best interest in mind. And once families got to know particular staff members, if they had those reservations, they would see the value in the structures that are in place. But I also understand that level of trust with any organization sometimes takes time, and sometimes it's contingent on the personalities of both the parent and student and the principal, assistant principal, whoever. So I think there's a lot of variables there. I would be lying if I said there are never incidents where students don't report things, right? So I'm sure that occurs. But my hope is that the more open that we can be about conversations about these sorts of topics, the more willing students are to report them, but then over here for a much broader conversation are whatever these societal concerns are with reporting similar things and people's reactions and inflammatory language and all that. So I think we do see whatever tensions, whatever positive or negative things are going on in the community around the world, often just like everybody's jobs, often influence what goes on inside of schools in terms of what language students are willing to use or what actions they're willing to take. So it's certainly a unique balance for schools to balance that out. I think Dr. Bedell regularly says students are in school for what does he say, 19% of the week or something like that. So I don't want to misquote that data point, but I think that's an interesting balance because oftentimes if a student is willing to use particular language or take a particular action in the middle of the cafeteria, it's very likely they're doing it at home, in the neighborhood, that kind of stuff. So it's certainly a delicate balance, I think.
I want to
Thank you.
thank Patrick for indulging us in our questioning and comments. I'd like to suggest maybe that you send us electronically the handbook, student handbook, and the slide that you had with the board policy, or just tell us what the board policy is, so people can go into the AACPS website. You go to the board and you look up policies. You can pull it up and read it for yourself. And so the handbook, whatever relevant policies, you had slides on that, and the brochures that you suggested go out to the families, I think would be useful for us to get as a commission.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So I'll send along the handbook. I'll save you the time from searching. I can send you that board regulation and AAC policy, as well as those pamphlets. And I'll probably do that first thing in the morning if that's okay with you guys.
That's great.
I'll just respond to all to that email. I'll put those documents in there, and then certainly, I'm happy to answer follow-up questions or huddle up with whether it's Dr. Gillens or somebody else to find the answer to a question. And I just I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Mr. Jelias, before you leave,
Yeah.
may I also suggest possibly speaking to the fact of the people who's been offended and having an avenue for them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a good question and good feedback in terms of how we are, what structures and programs we have in place as a school system for those students. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you again, and really appreciate the presentation, robust discussion, and this is an area we want to continue to get information on. I don't know how your quarterly reports go. I'm interested in Commissioner Daydoni's question about board policy. Having been a school board member, I can tell you right now, there are policies that I was involved in developing that don't exactly get followed the way they were in terms of policy. So we'll kind of work through that and see how that works. Finally, the only thing that I would say that was concerning to me was there were a lot of instances at the elementary level, and it seems to me that I guess I would be interested in what you and your office are doing to work and maybe a little more energetically with the elementary teachers and principals and say, this is not acceptable. And if we have to get the parents in to say, this is not acceptable, we need to do that. That just a comment.
Yeah, and I'll just I'll close by agreeing with you. And we've worked to. Yeah, I think there's definitely work to be done, as you actually detailed exactly how I feel about it. But I think with our elementary schools, my message to those school-based teams this year has been like, look, I know they're the little guys, right? But they quickly become the middle schoolers, and they quickly become the high schoolers, and now it's not a cute 5-year-old, it's an 18-year-old, right? And so trying to graduate and about to be out in the world, as people say, right? So there's not a lot of time in there, right? And so my message to our elementary school principals has been just what you said, but also working to make sure that our elementary school teams are on the same page as our middle school teams, so that there's not a significant disparity between 5th grade and 6th grade in terms of interventions and supports. And then similarly between 8th grade and 9th grade, right? I really believe that while those grade levels are different and there's some nuances that are different in terms of how you're interacting and supporting those students, at the end of the day, an 8th grader should not get to 9th grade and be completely unprepared for the behavioral expectations or academic expectations of high school. Same thing for 5th grade to 6th grade. There's naturally going to be some students that transition is a bit of a struggle, but to your point, some ongoing work with our elementary school colleagues is definitely needed. But I thank you guys again.
Thank you.
If you guys are good, I'm gonna jump off.
Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate it, and thanks for hanging in there with us.
Okay.
At this point in time, I'd like to ask Captain Smith to come forward, and you've been very patient, and appreciate you hanging in there with us. And I'll turn it over to you, Captain Smith.
Of course, and it's not patience. I'm learning something every day, so I picked up quite a bit from the previous presentations. So thank you all for allowing me to talk to you all today. I'm Elizabeth Smith. I'm the commander of the Community Relations Division for the Anne Arundel County Police Department. And that section covers school resource officers, youth engagement, which is our diversion programs, youth activities, which provide interaction and positive activities between kids and police officers. And I've got chaplains and mental health people and Arundel Mills Mall. So there's a lot there, but specifically, obviously, we were talking to the SROs earlier. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I would like to. There it is. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. I want to first start and apologize by saying I'm not a super awesome PowerPoint ranger. So you're going to get the basics, and then I'm going to come off of this and go onto our dashboard. Okay. So again, you have my name, my contact information is right there if anybody wants to take it down. If there's any questions anybody doesn't feel comfortable asking, you can always ask me privately or separately or offline or anything like that. And please don't feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions or anything about anything that comes up here. So I was asked to talk about statistics, but before we talk about statistics, I'm going to take 0.25 seconds and go over definitions, right? We know that there's a difference between a hate bias incident and a crime, right? So that incident is that act of that, it's not even an act, but that expression of hostility towards a protected class, but doesn't rise to the level of a crime. And then obviously the hate crime is the crime or the threat to commit the crime based on any one of those protected classes. When you, first of all, we as a police department, we want people to report these incidents to us. We want people to feel safe in coming to us. And so that's our message when we, whenever we talk about this. We did just do, there's a video out there on YouTube on hate bias in Anne Arundel County Police. I urge you all to look it up. It was just done maybe a couple weeks ago. Has amazingly great information on the entire process of what happens when somebody does report something to us. So
Captain Smith, sorry, just to cut you. For the commission, that's the webinar that we did, and the link was sent to you all.
Yeah, they did an amazing job, and like I just watched it and I was like, wow, okay, you guys are good, and they're way better talkers than I am. So again, I'll take 1 minute and we'll talk about how to report. So when they report, you can contact police just the same way you can contact police any other time. Walk into a district, call on the phone. There's even online reporting, but that will end up with some sort of actual verbal or communication. So the officer will respond to the scene of something or come out and talk with them if they come to a district station, and try to first make sure the scene is safe, do the investigation on scene. We're going to talk to all parties and all witnesses to the incident, figure out what was going on, do that on-scene investigation that we can do. If there's any evidence to be gathered, we're going to gather that evidence. And if I can say one thing about that, just based on my personal experiences in the past when I have responded to things like this, it is going to be, especially if we have some graffiti or somebody defaces something, and it falls under hate bias speech of some way, the initial thought process would be get rid of it. I can't tell you the amount of times that police have gone on a call, or we found out about it later, where somebody scrawled a racial slur on something, or somebody put a swastika on something else, or whatever, and cleaned it off and did everything that they needed to do before we were even there. And so that's evidence that we don't have. So I do urge people that if you can, close the area off and call us before anybody cleans anything off. Again, it's an emotional thing, and it's disgusting, but it may help us to identify, oh, this is the same thing as something else that we had on this date or this time, and we know that suspect. So it could possibly lead us to where we need to be. So that would be my only ask. And then after the, while on scene, they actually get pamphlets, like victims' rights pamphlets, so they know what to do. We can help walk people through a process. And then, so the officers on scene will write a report. There is no, maybe write a report. They write a report. They do not have a choice. And then that report will go to detectives who will investigate to determine if there's a crime. Now, if it's a black and white, if it's like, okay, yes, there's absolutely a crime here, the on-scene officer can go ahead and file those charges. If they're not sure what's going on, it goes to a detective who does follow-up investigation. And then if that follow-up investigation determines that charges are warranted, then the investigator will file for charges on that. We believe, and I personally don't believe that I should refer somebody to a commissioner for second-degree assault charges when they've already been through so much. So, our thing is, okay, let's take that burden off of you, and it's just an example of if you got assaulted and yes, it was proven to be racially motivated or sexual identity motivated or whatever. And so we'll do those charges and we'll drop the application at the commissioner's office. And that, in a nutshell, is the response. We also report up, and then that's the statistics I'm going to talk about in the next slide. Is there any questions before I move on about our process? I can't urge everybody enough that get people to report if something happens, because it's the only way we're going to stop it. And the police cannot do anything about something if it's not reported. And so what we're trying to do is make sure everybody feels safe enough to be able to report it to the police. Unfortunately, we know that that's not always the case, because there is sometimes a trust factor. We're trying to overcome that, though, and hope everybody, we're all partners in this. So, okay, so these are just snapshot statistics, and they mirror the first presentation that you had today. So these are only as of the end of September. Our dashboard wasn't not our dashboard, but our spreadsheet wasn't updated, and our spreadsheet is what we report to the police. They're about a month behind at this point. So there have been a total number of 96 allegations or incidents as of that date that you have on there. Now, the question I got was, what was the number of incidents versus what was the number of incidents reported to the state? And that answer is that those numbers are the same. It's been like that for a while. They changed it where we don't just report that mandatory crime requirement. We're reporting everything up to the state now. So you might see an increase in those numbers. And actually, I'm going to get rid of the PowerPoint, and I'm going to show this. You all have seen the hate bias incident dashboard before, I'm sure, but it's available to everybody. It's on the open. You can just Google hate bias dashboard Anne Arundel County. As you can see right here, it shows 96 total for 2025. And the big disparity between 2024 and 2025 is that we were reporting different things. We've changed the way that we report things to the state. And so now, again,
your display to us hasn't changed. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You might have to stop sharing and start sharing again. I often have that problem.
I hate when that happens.
I do too.
How's that?
There it is.
Okay, there it is. So this is the data that the police, our central records, takes, and we document, upload it, and then we send it to the county, and the GIS people do their handy dandy magic, and they create these wonderful things, right? So this is going to be, this first one's your overall one. Have you all seen this before, I assume? Or not? Okay. So again, this is available to anybody online that wants to Google it. Obviously, you can see that the disparity is because we've changed the way that we reported from last year, and now we're reporting everything and not just the crime parts. And so this first one, I'll give you a snapshot of what's going on overall. But let's go to 2025 so far. And what you'll see here is that, sorry about that, my cat's doing something crazy in the background. What you'll see here is a breakdown of the statistics of everything that is reported to us. Now, again, these, 96 incidents in 2025, and maybe that seems low, maybe that seems high, but remember, we can only report on what's reported to us. So you'll see in here that you'll see the demographics and the makeups of the victims, the offenders, and what type of bias it was, and where the location was. I did want to direct, there were questions earlier. Another question that I had was about hotspots. And as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, that's incidents by zip code this year so far. And yes, Glen Burnie is up there. Your hotspots aren't necessarily, you have to take into account everything about the county, right? So there's more people that live in that Glen Burnie, Pasadena area than that live in South County, right? And so you're going to have more there just based on the per capita amount of people we have there. There's no major trends in any of the information. Just know that, like, in the Glen Burnie is normally the #1 zip code that does reported. But there's no, it's not a trend. It's, again, the population is higher there. So whenever you have more people, you're going to have more complaints. I did want to take a second here. I know you see the school elementary thing there as 9 so far this year. And again, those are things that have risen to the level of either somebody calls an SRO over, or if there's no SRO assigned to the school, then they will call police and have police respond to the school. You'll get a patrol officer there, and then that person would take a report on it. Any questions on any of this data?
Yeah, and I apologize.
Don't.
Many questions, and we'll have time to look at this. It's on replay. We can absorb it, and we'll have questions later. Let me start with a thank you. We have had in the past wonderful reports, and then for a long time we haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to thank you for the thoroughness of this report very much. I'm going to drill down on the SRO call for the moment and then go to my next question.
Absolutely.
So, who makes that call to now? Help us understand when for it to get into your system, to appear here at a school, an SRO or a patrol officer has to be called. Elementary schools don't have SROs. Middle schools and high schools do. So when we have elementary and secondary schools, some of those may be from elementary schools. How does an SRO or a patrol officer get involved? You said someone calls.
Yeah. So
who pulls in the SRO?
That's a good question. So those those are all the schools in Anne Arundel County. So I know it says elementary and secondary, but really that's all schools. And just for clarification, so everybody on the call knows, all high schools have SROs. No elementaries do, and only some middle schools do.
Ah.
So you're not going to see a lot of those. So if our SRO or our patrol officer happens to be somewhere and we witness the act or the hate bias incident, then we're there. And, if we could have, visually seen or witnessed it, we don't have to be notified. But 99.99% of the time, it's either going to be somebody from the school, or it's going to be a parent of somebody that heard about something that happened at school later on at night. And so those are the two ways they will contact us. If it's an SRO, they'll get on the school radio and say, hey, can we get the SRO to whatever location? and then that's how the school pulls them involved. We assume that they do it based on what the code of conduct or the student handbook tells them to do. There is once you get that, you'll see a page on that student handbook, and I don't have it handy because it's the school, so I do apologize. But there will be a thing in there on when you have to notify police. So that will kind of give you some insight into when and how we get notified on that one. If there's not a school resource officer assigned to that school, they simply call either the non-emergency number or 911, depending on what the call is.
Okay. So this leads into my next question. It's one I brought up at the last meeting of this group, and I was supposed to get a question to you, and I never got the question to you.
Okay.
I want to pose it now as something. I hope you'll be back with us again.
I would. I love coming here. I came here a year ago. Honestly, it's something near and dear to me. So yes. So
Perhaps we can follow up on this. But it's the question of consistency. The process you just described and my own knowledge of what's happening within the school system itself is that as beautiful as the process is laid out at the central offices, by the time it gets down to the school, even down to the school cluster where we have regional principals, I think they're called, Eugene.
Superintendents, regional
superintendents. The interpretation can vary a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So based on that experience, I am thinking that there is a fair amount of room for inconsistency in interpretation and involvement of the SROs across the school district. And here I am focusing on the schools, and there's so much more going on here. Perhaps also between the four police districts. Here I have also had some personal experience. Is there anything you can comfortably say about how consistency is or is not accomplished?
Absolutely. So as far as reporting to us, well, let me back up. First of all, I have the relationship that we have built with the county schools has been so phenomenal. I came into my role about a year and 3 or 4 months ago. And since that time, Mrs. Jackson from the school system and everybody that works for her, they have been so phenomenal. They've answered my questions. They work with my SROs. There's just there's so much back and forth communication that we've really developed a positive working relationship. And and as far as the police department goes, and I could probably say this for the school system too, although I don't want to talk for them. We have made it as standardized as it can possibly be. It's black and white, and it's clear cut in what is in the handbook, what should and shouldn't be reported. Now, a second grader is at an elementary school where we don't have police and maybe comes out with a slur of some sort that is against a protected class. That's not something that they're going to call the police on. It's just not. So I don't know the exact process that they use in their schools, so I really don't want to speak to it, but I'm almost 100% sure it goes through what the gentleman was saying before me. You know, the thing happens, maybe they go through their training, and I think that's the steps that he was explaining. But as far as the crimes and everything, it's pretty consistent. If there's like a hate bias assault or a theft or a robbery or whatever it is, that part is consistent on when it is reported to us by the schools when the schools know about it. And so the times that I want to say 75 to 90% of the time, if it's a parent or somebody or a family member that is reporting it to us, most likely the school doesn't even know. And so that's why we say report, 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 because we don't want this to be an issue.
Thank you very much for your response.
Oh, absolutely. And there is one more thing I wanted to talk about. While I'm pulling it up, if anybody has any questions, I would be more than happy to answer. Northern and Western have the northern and western areas of the county. Northern followed by Western, then Eastern, then Southern, have in order the highest amount of incidents. I can tell you that everything of the 96 that have been reported to the state this year, sorry, I got to move your pictures because it gets I can't see my whole thing. All 96 have been found inconclusive or unfounded. So inconclusive does not mean it didn't happen the way that the victim says it happened. It just simply means there's no way to prove a he said, she said. So that's kind of, it's a little frustrating, you know, because unfortunately being ignorant is not illegal. And so I just wanted to share those things with you. And then I think I see another question.
Oh, yeah. Commissioner Sorrow?
Yeah, I have two questions, and I think that the first one is raised just by the 100% either inconclusive or unfounded. Is that normal? I mean, that 100% of all of the complaints or all of the reports were inconclusive?
Yeah, so let's talk about when somebody reports something to us. I'm screen sharing. I can probably stop sharing my screen now, right? Sorry. So what constitutes something being hate bias is really on the perception of a victim when it's reported. So you're driving down the road and there's a road rage incident and somebody flips you off and says a disparaging term.
Mm-hmm.
The police are called by the person that was the victim of that person, and then they get to the scene. You're going to find a lot of times it's going to be what one driver said versus what another driver said. And there is absolutely no way to prove that unless somebody comes off of it. Most of the incidents that do get reported, I think it's 50% or less, or 50% or more, don't actually have crimes associated with them. So I know these are hard numbers to believe, like, what? Again, that inconclusive does not mean it didn't happen. Right. Just means we can't prove it. And what a victim perceives as based on being a protected class may not actually be what was in the other party's heart or mind if they committed something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other, yet another thing, very hard to prove. So.
Right. And so when you're looking at whether something is inconclusive or not, say you have that he said, she said, the officer isn't going to consider credibility of the parties, or does there have to be, like, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, like you're in a criminal case, or is it a lower burden of proof to establish
those are really great questions, and I'm actually glad you asked them. So if something moves into the realm of being hate bias and it is a crime, we always consult with the state's attorney's office. Like, does this rise to a level of a hate crime? If somebody was assaulted and they perceive it because it was their race, that assault charge we may be able to prove, and we can drop second degree assault charges. Mm-hmm. But we may not be able to prove that it was hate bias related or motivated. And so the hate part is inconclusive, but the assault charges are not inconclusive. We've dropped those charges. And by dropped, I mean we put in for charges to be filed. So I apologize if that was.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, so it's not that a crime didn't occur. We can prove a lot of times whether a crime occurred. We cannot prove a lot of times what somebody said or did that made the victim perceive that they were targeted for a specific reason.
Okay. And that piece of it needs to be beyond a reasonable doubt to be conclusive. I guess that's, and
Sorry, my daughter was asking me something.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. And it's probably, kind of getting into the weeds, but I'm just trying to figure out, is it just, a little bit more likely that it happened or not? Or do you need that, really serious proof or not even proof, but
it's a higher threshold.
The standard is higher. Okay.
It's a higher threshold than you would believe.
Yeah.
I know I'm an officer, but I'm not like the expert on law. So,
right.
I would a lot of times, that's why we always defer to the state's attorney. Like if it's going that way, we will always have them on board and say, hey, do we have this or not? Is this hate related? Is this whatever? Yeah. Or tell them this is our case. We believe it would be hate related, or there's nothing in our investigation that shows that this person had any targeting effect because that person was a woman, or that person was Black, or that person was fill in the blank, whatever protected class. It's definitely a higher standard though. Right.
So is there a difference between an incident and a crime in terms of the standard that you're looking at? No. Okay. I guess that answers my question. Okay. But then my other question, it hopefully will be easier to answer. And I'm hopeful that I can use whatever your answer is in my service that we provide. What are you doing to try to make the community feel more comfortable reporting incidents? We're seeing a huge drop off in folks who are willing to come to court, whether it's to defend themselves in a housing case or to help them with a protective order. We're just seeing a huge drop off of residents who fear any involvement right now with the system, more so than before, and it was already not
that's a valid question. The only way that people are going to feel safe to do that is to be present and to build those connections ahead of time. Yeah. If we do not do that, it won't happen. And so we're out there doing food drives. We're out there taking walks in the communities. We're out there trying to maintain and then improve on the ones that we already have. We do have great relationships with our community. I feel blessed to be in Anne Arundel County because we have those great working relationships, but we're always looking to build more. We're always looking to have that, if a community wants us in, we're there. I'm the community relations person. Like, I'm in, let's do it, and it's that the time to show up and the time to start to build the trust is not after an incident has happened. It's before an incident has happened. And if we don't do that, we won't succeed. We have been out there. I know that there are certain communities that are scared right now. I can tell you that we have been out there trying to push the message. Our police community coordinator has also been doing a lot of messaging with faith-based organizations and community groups to try and get out there and let people know, listen, everybody deserves that safe environment to live in, to work in. You shouldn't be scared to go outside. You shouldn't be subjected to any hate bias. Everybody needs a safe place to live and work. And so that's kind of the messaging. I wish I had a better answer for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was at a conference all day today. People were addressing this very issue. How do you get help to people who are afraid to ask for it?
You have to have money in the bank.
Yeah.
Before you can take that money out. And before I ask and beg somebody to come to us and talk to us, I have to put my trust in that. They have to put their trust in me first.
Right. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Any other questions, commissioners? Then we'll let Captain Smith go on with her presentation. Okay.
That's actually all I have.
Okay.
Again, that dashboard, you all can get that dashboard at any time. Just go on the internet and Google hate bias information Anne Arundel County, and it should be the first thing that pops up.
And I believe Director Smith can correct me if I'm wrong. On our web page on the county website, don't we have the link to that?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So any
And it's
commissioner
also on the
wants
Office
to
of Equity and Human
avail
Rights.
themselves of that.
That's right. It is on that.
Okay. Once again, want to thank you, Captain Smith, for coming and giving the presentation, reminding us that data is available and we can access that data. Interesting to find out that state reporting has changed, that they want all the information. And that is a major change from the state. Did that happen this year or last year? Or?
I think this was the first full year. And
Okay.
again, if you saw that dashboard, we went from 40 to 96. There, I mean, it was a double. That's because
Yes.
we're giving them more information than we were.
And I guess a follow-on question would be, okay, now that they have all that data, do they then come back to county police departments, city police departments like City of Annapolis, if they send that data and basically say, how do you see this? This is how we see this from the state level. How do you see it? Or do you have meetings like that?
I personally do not. I don't know what type of meetings are had at a higher headquarters level. I would assume it would just like MDSE puts out a report every year, and in that report, there's each jurisdiction statistical information on like student arrests and things like that. I would assume it would be some sort of report like along the same lines, but I can try and find out and get back to you.
That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also dropped my direct phone number and my email address in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, they can reach out.
Fantastic. Again, Captain Smith, want to thank you for a very robust presentation and discussion. And we look forward to continuing to get the data and information from you and continuing to have you come and talk to us about how we're doing in this situation, addressing hate, bias incidents in Anne Arundel County.
Well, thank you. And again, anytime you invite me, I'll be here. So
you bet. Thank you.
Have a good night, y'all.
Thank
You
you.
too. At this point, I'd like to ask Commissioner Hatcher. I don't think we have anything to report, and I want to thank you and Commissioner Apter for getting the draft letter to us. We are basically working on getting the letter done, and I'm working with the director and Chanel to get the letter done, and I'm hoping that we can get it to the mayor-elect prior to January, and sometime in December. So that would mean, and I looked it up, we'll send it to his campaign office because that's where that information would go now.
Chairman Peterson, I think it's already been sent. If I'm,
oh,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was sent. I saw an email today, maybe.
Okay, I missed that email, but that's great, and want to thank the director and Chanel for doing that. Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic, and we'll look forward to a response, and given all that, we'll want to thank you for your diligence and work in getting it done. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. At this point in time, I'd like to say that I'll be talking with Commissioner Michaels. I'm going to give you a call tomorrow and we'll talk about dates in December when we can have the executive committee meet and do a little bit of work and planning for our in-person January meeting of the whole commission.
Sounds good, Chairman.
Okay. And at this point in time, I think we have no more business to conduct. So I would entertain a motion, which is a non-debatable motion, to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, Commissioner Dodoni.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner.
Second, Commissioner Sarah.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed. Okay. For those of you that are going to the 22nd event, sounds like it's going to be a great event in Anne Arundel County. A lot of attendance, and look forward to seeing you all in January after the holidays, when we can continue our work in terms of planning and developing the commission to be the kind of commission that you and the citizens of Anne Arundel County want to have as a Human Relations Commission. Okay, thank you, and good night.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.